Welcome to Chok Muay Chats, episode 44. I'm Joe Comerford, content creator, commentator, and Muay Thai nerd. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Meg McNelis, all the way from America, the United States of America, but living in Korat, the northeastern province of Thailand, training out of Kem Muay Thai at the moment. Today, we're talking a little bit about her journey through Muay Thai and also what it's like to live in a rural camp of Thailand. Welcome, Meg.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I suppose we'll get straight into it. And for those who are new to Chok Muay Chats, this podcast is all about conversations about everything and anything Muay Thai, mostly specifically Muay Thai. And I normally ask people how Muay Thai started for them. So how did Muay Thai start for you?
It's a unique story. So the U.S. government has a program that it's had since JFK called the Peace Corps, where they sent volunteers to work in various programs in different countries around the world. It's something that these countries had to invite them to come do, so it's not like a white savior thing. So basically, just a bunch of volunteers they send over here. Thailand was actually one of the first countries that had one of these programs. They train up the volunteers in language and culture and the actual skill that they're going to be working on with the host country. And then they send us to a remote village for 2 years and we just hang out and we do some work and it's a great time. So I was selected as a volunteer for Thailand and I was doing basically I was helping at a school. And I was in a little tiny village in this province about 2 hours from here called Seong Sang. And I absolutely fell in love with Thai culture. And while I was here, that's what I learned what Muay Thai was. I had no idea what it was before.
So you just, whilst you were doing the Peace Corps work, you just happened to stumble across Muay Thai and were partaking it in your spare time?
Yeah, so there was a little like old fashioned, like janky Kai Muay near my village, about 4 kilometers away, and we were only allowed to ride bicycles. They wouldn't let us on motorcycles, so they had this little farang pedaling like back and forth every day to this gym, basically just kicking the bag. There was some like politics that sort of prevented them from properly like training me, but it was a really really good outlet when I was having issues at work or just feeling culturally isolated. It was a really really nice outlet. So when I went back to the United States, I actually started practicing it at a gym in the US, at an MMA gym.
Oh, cool. And yeah, that's quite a nice little sort of journey into it, stumbling across it, because a lot of people, especially from the West, they tend to come into the sport very broken. I mean, everybody has their own issues that they're dealing with, but kind of just stumbling across it whilst doing volunteer work is kind of a different story of finding Muay Thai. You know, a lot of people were struggling with substance abuse, or they were getting
But I
bullied
mean,
at
I did that
school.
too.
Oh yeah. I mean, as I said, no, everybody's got their own story, but you know, stumbling across it and just almost like it's falling into your lap is kind of a nice little different story as to how other people fell into it. Now, how has how's Muay Thai helped you in your life? Because I mean, a big story arc, I suppose, or the narrative that I like to push is that you know Muay Thai can change lives. It's not going to fix everything, but it certainly gives you the tools to help you deal with the challenges that you find in life. How's Muay Thai helped you?
Well, I agree with you that Muay Thai isn't necessarily therapy, but it is extremely therapeutic. I think a lot of times mental illness comes from, part of it is chemistry, part of it is genetics, part of it is the pressures under which we live in modern society. And if you can have an outlet like Muay Thai to channel your focus, it's almost meditative in a way. I don't think of it as, oh, I'm angry, I'm going to go take it out on a bag. It's just you're working so hard and you're trying so hard to focus and become better at the skill that you've chosen to do. And it uses so much of your physical and mental resources that you don't have as much noise in your head left over at the end of the day. Um, but for me specifically, it was actually instrumental in me getting sober because, like I said, I did have a substance issue as well. I was accepting fight after fight so that I would have something through sobriety to have to work toward. So that was quieting a lot of the noise that would come. All of my other attempts to get sober, where I didn't have this much of a structure involved, they were not successful. So Muay Thai gave me an outlet. Now, was my fighting very good? Not really, because I was just taking fight after fight and not really honing in on the skills I needed to. So I have an upside down amateur record, and it's not a big deal because I had a bigger goal, and that was to remain sober, and I have. It's been like 2 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that everybody sort of thinks, not everybody. I should. I tend to. You'll find in this podcast that I tend to find I start off with these blanket statements. No, a lot of people tend to think about Muay Thai as only just fighting, and that the end goal is becoming the best fighter that you can be. But for a lot of people, it's about bettering yourself. And I know for at least for me in my experience, it was about getting better self confidence. And then after that, finding that I wanted to be a better fighter, but very much similar in the fact that I had a very upsy down, curvy record. You know, I wasn't the best fighter, and I'm fairly transparent about that in the content that I put out there. I mean, if you look at my last 3 or 4 fights, I think I got knocked out in 3 out of 4 of them and lost all 4. So, you know, it's really about yourself when it comes to fighting. I mean, you haven't got anybody to blame, and the only person you've got something to prove to is to yourself. And I think that's really powerful. Instead of thinking about just being the best fighter that you can be, you've got a bigger goal at the end of that, and it's about protecting yourself from substance abuse or alcohol or whatever it is. You know, I think that's a really powerful thing that people need to realize, that it's about only proving it to yourself sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The intensity of combat sports is, I think, why it's so effective for some people, because it is physically painful. Like you're getting hit. It's not something you're fighting every single instinct that you have when you go and you start swinging on somebody and they start swinging on you, especially as a woman. It's something we're taught just not to explicitly not do, and that is not good. We don't even play fight as little kids compared to boys. So it's such a raw and physical thing that I think it basically strips you of anything artificial, because you just can't fake skill in this. You can't fake it. You can maybe be given certain opportunities. I don't want to say artificially, but you know who you know, and your connectivity and your success in the sport from an outside perspective. That can be not always a linear kind of thing, but you can't fake the resilience and like the physicality that it takes to actually perform and to
No,
take fights.
no, I agree with you. I don't think it's a sport where you can fake it till you make it. I think those who are faking it tend to get found out very quickly. I remember a good friend of mine, Kieran Walsh, who's a very good trainer and has a number of fantastic athletes under his wing, always says that, you know, eventually the fakers will get exposed in the ring, and that's where they do get exposed, you know. And you know, this sport, especially with the rise, is attracting all kinds of individuals, a lot of grifters, and they tend to get exposed very quickly. I think there's something beautiful about this community. I'm not saying that people should be, you know, witch hunted or anything like that, but people tend to get found out fairly quickly if you're not authentic as well. I think that's another thing about the community.
You can cultivate an image as much as you want, but I think um, first of all, building relationships in a sport that's still kind of niche is really important. And you're
Mm,
not really going to build good relationships. People have a pretty good radar for bullshit, I think,
mm.
especially in Thailand, because people, in general, Thai culture is very, very high context. There's a lot that goes unsaid. So I have found that in general, Thai people are really, really good at reading your intentions and reading your sincerity. That's not, of course, true across the board, and I don't want to make any, too much of a broad generalization, but having lived really, really deeply in a culture and being completely linguistically and culturally isolated, that's definitely something I saw very consistently. I could be smiling, happy, jumping up and down, and they'll say, "What's wrong? There's something wrong today. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "How did you possibly know that something was bothering me?" They know. So you're not going to be able to fake it in Thailand. And also just the sport in and of itself. Again, there's such a broad variety of skill sets and tools that you can bring into the ring, and if you're not constantly building yours, you won't be able to keep up with the other players. So you don't even really necessarily have to try to cultivate an image, because if you put the work in and you do it effectively, it's going to show for itself. I don't think that there needs to be as much, hype and shit talking, if you will, as there is in a lot of other combat sports, partially because it is a respectable sport. It is a Thai sport, but partially because you just don't have to. If you're good enough, you don't have to talk. Just show what you've done and show your hard work.
Yeah, I think as we try to, I would say, commercialize the sport a little bit more, that kind of shit talking element and the overhyped um aspect of the sport just isn't there. You know, recently I did a digital face off for the light heavyweight WBC world title between Charlie Bubb and Daniel Bonner, and they were nothing but respectful towards
Mhm.
each other. Like, that's not saying that they weren't confident in their own abilities, but there was no shit talk. They were just said, "Oh yeah, look, on Saturday night we're going to get the job done,"
Mhm.
and whoever wins wins. At the end of the day, we'll still be mates after. And I think that is such a powerful thing that divides this sport between other ones, where especially in, you know, the Americanization of MMA and boxing, you know, the overhyped commercialization of it, and seeing, you know, fighters do these face offs and just talking terribly about each other's mothers, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, it's just not in our sport, and I'm very thankful. Not kind of thankful. I'm very thankful for that. But
I think that that became a really, this is just my little like pet hypothesis. I don't really have data to back this up, but my suspicion is that the fact that people want so much drama in combat sports is because of things like wrestling, WrestleMania, WWE, all
yep,
of that stuff. We had such a history. That was something that was, I think, the biggest, earliest stage for combat sports to be broadcast to such a large audience. So it became expected. And when it wasn't present in other sports, they weren't considered as entertaining. And so I know that that's an element of it, and people have had to kind of develop full on personas in order to become noticed in the sport and to be picked up on by, yes, especially MMA is getting more and more saturated, and you have to stand out in some way. And
yep.
if you're a technical and good but boring fighter, people are not excited to watch you.
I remember, and just mentioning my friend Kieran as well. Kieran again, Kieran Walsh. Shout out to him. He's a very wise man. I did a podcast with him years ago, and we are talking about this very thing about characters in Muay Thai. And one of the things is, don't don't pretend to be something that you're not. So if you're going to be the villain, that's okay. Be a villain, but at least stick to it, and don't be a nice guy if you're going to do that.
Mhm.
But if you are a humble, quiet person, then stick to that. Don't try and be the villain, because it's not going to do you any justice. And people are going to see through that bullshit as well. And like right now, I think we're at a turning point in Muay Thai in terms of like the industry, where social media is really important. We live in this attention economy, and it's really important for fighters to take advantage of their social media presence. And I'm not saying that, you know, they have to be influencers, but it certainly opens the door to more opportunities. And I've had conversations with matchmakers, and they've asked me, how many followers does this person have? And that's a pretty strong indicator to me now that it's important to have a social media presence, but it also means that shouldn't pretend to be something that you're not, I think.
It feels a little unfair to me almost because I do social media because I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I think it's really fun to make things, especially being at Kem. I'm up here in the mountains with not very much to do, especially in between training. And even if I did have something to do, we train so hard, it's probably inadvisable. So I'm just making my little reels. It's a creative outlet. I'm just like full on regressing, playing with beads and making things on my phone. Like it's fun for me. And
Mm.
like it makes me really happy when I see that people are enjoying the things that I'm making. And I'm also trying to be a good fighter, but if I'm not just some superstar, I'm not going to just automatically have a built-in following. Like it takes work. And I've had people, I guess, show a little bit of almost bitterness in regards to the fact that their social media isn't taking off, even though they are fairly established fighters. And the thing is that it's work. And I think that no, you shouldn't have to do that work to be a successful fighter if all you want to do is fight. And so I'm not really sure how people should navigate that moving forward. I just think it's fun. I just like being a dork on the camera and I like fighting. And whatever doors that opens for me, then like great. I hope that people like what I do and I hope I get to stay here a long time. But that's my main goal, you know. I'm not trying to win but WBC world titles. I'm 33 and I'm not an athlete. Like I I have closed myself on the wrong side of a door before.
Never say never. I mean, there's been some phenomenal athletes who have competed right up till the age of 38, 39, and won world titles. So don't count yourself out now. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, for me, it's taken me a long time to get the following that I've got now. And it's just through posting every single day. And I enjoy it. People say, oh, how do you have time to create so much content? Well, it's something that I enjoy in my spare time. It's, you know, and I've made the commitment to try and post every single day. And also, it's about educating people, you know, because I want to protect Thailand from nefarious types, I suppose. You know, a lot of young guys will come over here and cause havoc, and I'm trying to educate, especially young guys in their 20s, on how to behave when they get here and the expectations of them. And you know, it's not Jerry's Wonderland. It's somebody's home with somebody's family's business that they're training at, so they need to respect that. Now, going into that, can you tell us about how you came into training at Kem's? So, for those who don't know, Kem Sitsonpeenong, multiple world champion, phenomenal athlete, had some great fights back in the day. I do believe he fought Toby Smith for the Australians out there at one point, but he opened a gym up in Korat in the mountains, and it's a beautiful gym. I've not been there yet, but I've had my eye on it for probably about 10 years. I've really wanted to make my way up there. Can you tell us about how you stumbled across Kem and your journey there?
I am very enthusiastic about this place, so I'm going to take a few deep breaths. Otherwise, people will not be able to understand me because I'll be talking so fast. When I was, like I said, when I was a Peace Corps volunteer, this was my province. And my initial plan was to go and fight and train out of Manop up in Chiang Mai. I know I met Sarah and Mu, so Susat, last time I was there, and they were such cool people. I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with Chiang Mai. I was like, I'm going to Chiang Mai. But I think it would be really cool if I had my first fight in the province where I did my Peace Corps service. And I had heard of this gym because I was, you know, when I was here, I still knew about Muay Thai. I was Googling, like, what other kinds of gyms are around here? One of the only ones that came up in English was Kem. And that took me to an article by Angela Cheng, who lives in Bangkok. She holds pads and was fighting out of Luk Suan Muay Thai. And
And she
she
has
is
she has
really
been a guest
ambitious.
on this podcast, sorry, as
Oh, she
well.
is. Okay, awesome. It shows what I know. I just told on myself. Um, but yeah, no, she's super cool, and she actually invited me recently to write an updated gym review for Muay Ying, her website, and so I did that. And so basically, what I'm going to say here, I said there in a lot more words. The gym is really, really personal. It's mostly, actually, pretty much all foreign fighters at this point. This was a choice that Kim made post COVID. My understanding, and I don't want to say anything that might be inaccurate, is just that he finds the people who are coming here very intentionally to be easier to work with. And he gets more out of the experience with foreign students, more respect, a little bit less drama. So he has changed the marketing to have it be like that. It's all inclusive. You get your own little bungalow, and they feed you twice a day. They feed you very, very well, and they truly do treat you like an individual, no matter how long you're here. He looks at your goals. He will analyze you. He won't just see what you're good at as far as fighting. He looks at what motivates you. He looks at what kind of coaching that you respond well to. And he will, within your first week, start to work with you personally. And whatever he finds out, he's going to tell the other pad holders, this is how I want you to work with this person. And I don't know that people always know that, because I happen to speak Thai and most people don't. And so I don't know if anybody realizes how much he's putting into each individual who comes here. It's incredible. I've never seen that. Especially in Thailand, I think a lot of Muay Thai coaches do this because they know the subject, and once they're done fighting, it makes sense to transition into a teaching career. But I think that Kim is truly just passionate about the sport and developing fighters, and he puts a lot into all of us. And Pimo, his wife, is the one who takes care of everybody, and she's just like the best big sister. Anytime we need anything, she's always running around trying to help everyone, make sure everybody's happy. Like, we worry about her. We're like, slow down, take a vacation. And she told me once at Raja, when people were leaving, like, I thought that she had allergies or something, but she was like kind of starting to tear up. And I was like, are you tired? She's like, no. She's like, I don't like saying goodbye. She's like, my heart breaks every week when you guys leave. And it's just, I've never experienced anything like this. It's not going to be a place where the absolute highest level fighters will want to stay for an extended period, I think, because there's not access to very consistent high level training partners. There's always high level people here, but most people are here for short stays. So people who are looking to be like sponsored fighters in Thailand are going to have better luck elsewhere. But this is a fantastic place for me, who really needed to have consistent but patient training. He's fixed a lot of my fundamentals, and I know that I've just improved so much since being here for, I guess, about 4 months now. And I fought 4 times, and I might be fighting again, I think, at the end of the month here.
Excellent. I mean, it seems like a place where if you need to dial in and really get personalized instruction, that's the place to go. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of gyms lack, is because recently, in my opinion, there's been a bit of a brain drain in Thailand. A lot of the high-level trainers have gone overseas. There has been a little bit of a brain drain that I suppose there's a lot of trainers at the moment just putting people through their paces and just doing the same revolutions every time. And we have a plethora of tourist gyms, but it's nice to hear that people are getting personalized instruction, and I think foreigners need that, because Thais learn differently to the way that we learn. They learn by doing, they learn by repetition, whereas we actually need instruction and visual cues. So yeah, it's good to hear that. And what's it like living in the provinces in rural Thailand as well?
Well, I have 2 different perspectives there, just because, well, one, we're kind of in a little bit of a bubble here. This isn't what I would say is authentic Isan life, because we're in this camp together, and we are, eating together, doing everything together. When we go to town, we go together. There's always constant access to socialization from mostly Westerners. And it's really fun because you meet some of the most interesting people, and we're all just here together meshing and talking about the things that we like. And I think this place tends to attract people who are very adventurous and interesting and have cool stories. And I've met very, very few people who have any kind of bad vibe to them out here. But that being said, it's not, I guess you could say, as much of an authentic Isan experience as if you were to go to maybe like, oh my God, Ubon, Well, when I was living in the village, though, that was straight up Isan. I would say that the expectations for how life is going to look like should be managed a little differently if you're going to train in Isan. The water is going to go out. The electricity is going to go out. You are going to get staff.
Mhm.
You need to have precautions in place, and you need to be very resilient. Like you need to learn learn how to use a squat toilet, and learn some manners because people are not used to seeing as many foreigners out here, and
Mm.
they may have a little bit less patience than people in Bangkok. So people in Bangkok or Phuket, they're so used to being oversaturated with a lot of times tourists who are very, very rude, and they are not very confrontational by nature. And that goes for out here as well. But I think the problem that happens then is that people don't realize that they've done something that might be a little bit of taboo or a little bit disrespectful. So I
Mm.
think that especially if you're going to be in a more like insulated community, I think for me, I feel a more personal responsibility to learn how to integrate pretty well with that community and how to be polite. And that was easy for me because I got, hours and hours of training in it from the Peace Corps. So
Mm.
I've kind of like, I guess, tried to be a little bit of a bridge for when people are unsure about something here. And that really like scratches my like need to be a people pleaser and to be helpful. So that's also another reason why I think I do well here because I feel like I'm useful.
Now, you've had a couple of fights out in the country, I would imagine. And what's that experience like? And what can people expect from fighting out in the provinces as well?
It's a really mixed bag. One nice thing about Kim's gym is that he has got a lot of connections with promoters, and he will get us um, pretty much as many fights as we can handle. Even as a woman, I don't feel like I've been denied fights as often as they are elsewhere. There are sometimes mismatches. He aims for that not to happen, but sometimes people will back out of fights with us. And that's another reason why the students at Kim Gym out here in Isan, we actually don't receive any fight purse because so many resources have to go into finding us fights and making it a lucrative thing for the local people to fight us. Two of my fights have been against really seasoned women who were really, really good. The first one, I kicked her kick. I've never felt such a strong shin in my life. I was out for literally a month just from that. I thought it was a check. Nope, I didn't check. I kicked her kick.
But they
And
call a pregnant shin.
God, it's a permanent bump now.
Yeah, yeah,
I use
pregnant
that
shin.
bump as like a marker for how bloated I am that day now. I'm like, oh, I can't see my bump. I need some more retaining water. So the second fight, the girl unfortunately was like a lot smaller than me. I saw her fight later and she's really good. I just overpowered her. So that
Yep.
didn't necessarily feel like a victory. And that was a good lesson in making sure I'm slowing down and using the opportunity to actually practice Muay Thai because um, if I know that I'm not going to get seriously hurt in a fight, why is there a need for me to try to finish it? I've never been like a knockout artist and I don't actually enjoy hurting people. I actually like to win on points because that means that I've done well in what I've learned.
Mm.
So I did get a TKO the second fight and then also my last fight. She was, I think, a little intimidated and she wasn't engaging and the ref kind of just called it. My third one, though, this girl, that was my most fun fight ever. We were both so gang. We were just like best friends after it, too. It was a
Mm.
war. I actually just posted a clip from that fight this morning as a reels, and we might rematch. We were even talking about it. She and I were talking about it. They were like they want to see us again. They love us. So it's pretty cool because it's the problem is again you're not going to necessarily get a fight that is a really good match that's been months in the making and all hyped up like you would be back at home. But I actually think that takes a
Yep.
lot of pressure off. I'm a lot less nervous when I fight now because I don't really know what I'm getting. I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to do what I know and not worry about what they know, and then I'm going to try to do that OODA loop and figure out what I can gain from that first round and then apply it in the second, third, fourth, and hopefully fifth.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question for you was do you see the difference between fighting out in the provinces and fighting back home and what's the difference in pressure because that's one big thing I think is that fighting in Thailand really takes the pressure off
Yeah.
instead of this big sort of media build up or especially on your kind of your local circuit back home, everybody knows each other and you're constantly checking the other person's fight clips and all that sort of stuff and playing
Hmm.
mental gymnastics and all the screaming inside your head. It really alleviates that, and you can just have fun with it. I found.
Hmm. It makes you sort of look at how much of it was the influence of, promoters and things. They're trying to make money. It's a business. They
Mm.
have to sell tickets. I'm not trying to knock it too much, but I do think it adds a lot of pressure to the fighters. And I've actually heard some horrific stories of abuse that have come from this culture because they hyped up this. My friend's like, she was going for a C class women's belt at USMTO, and didn't win the fight, and was like severely punished for that. And it was one of those where there was one other girl in her bracket. It was both of their first fights, but it was for a belt, and so there was all this pressure, and there were really bad consequences from that. And so I think that's so unfortunate, and it makes people fall out of love with the sport and not want to fight anymore, not because of the pain, but because of all of the stress that comes from it. Meanwhile, over here, like, you're just sitting in a parking lot in Pak Chong, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, that guy has 200 fights." Someone's like, "Oh, he's about to fight my friend." Yeah, yeah, he's pretty good. And they're just like, "Hey, what's up?" And you're sitting next to each other in the chair, you're doing your Y crew, you're all just kind of getting the job done and having a nice night out. I will say also, you asked earlier about the difference between Isan and other places. I will say that people in Isan don't tend to dive as much. They don't, and like up in Chiang Mai, people are fighting so much that it can be their main income source. And so if they feel that somebody is going to come out and do them damage, they may just go ahead and say this isn't worth it. They'll take a shot and they'll take a dive, which is not really considered dishonorable in Thai culture. It's more of a, so there's the concept of saving face in Thai culture. And what I learned is that it's actually more honorable to lose a fight because you were simply overpowered and got caught than to go all 5 rounds struggling against somebody who maybe has less experience than you. It's less embarrassing to just be like, "Oh, I got knocked out." But I don't see that happen as much out here in Isan.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, the the tourist circuit. I think there's a lot of value in people getting their experience there, but especially now with the popularity of Muay Thai growing and uh, I suppose the exposure online, we see a lot of guys coming over to Chiang Mai and getting wins over Somchai, who's fought the same other three content creators and has taken the same dive. And as a person on the outside, I really want to comment, but I just leave it. But it's one of those things. It's like, guys, you have to be realistic about the situation. These guys are some tries fighting 5 days a week.
Mhm.
He's getting 2,000 baht. That's more than he'll ever make at 7-Eleven, and he has to be in there for what, a round and a half. Just have a little bit of you know a bit of a reality check about the level of your Muay Thai. And I really think that Isan is a really good development circuit for people because, as you said, there's not as many dives or there's not as many people diving because Isan really serves as a feeding ground to or a scouting ground for a lot of the Bangkok talent. A lot of the fighters that we see in the Pet Indi, Sausamai, Kiat Pet shows, they all, not all of them, but a lot of them, I would say 70% come from out in the sticks in the
Yeah.
Northeast. A lot come from the South as well. But, a majority of fighters really do come from the provincial Muay Thai circuit. So, it's very active, very active. And, I really try and push people to go and explore the Isan circuit because that is where the beating heart of Muay Thai really is.
I agree. I would love to see more resources about other gyms that are, I guess, foreigner friendly. I think a lot of gyms here are so remote and rural and very old school that if you
Mm.
don't have a command of Thai and have connections, you probably won't be able to go to those gyms. It's not even so much that they don't want you there. It may just be that like nobody knows it exists unless they are Thai. Because there are so many different camps. I mean, every fight card I see, there's sometimes up to 40 fights, and it's all these camps I've never heard of. And or maybe just one teacher who has one or two disciples and they're training in the backyard and they're still phenomenal. So I think a lot of those camps are hard to find for people. So I'm wondering if you know of other ways to connect people to those camps. And also, understanding that it's harder to get fights out here if you don't have the kind of connections that PCAM has.
Yeah, there was back in the day. There used to be Thai Reddit, which was it's called Pantip, and it's basically the Thai version of Reddit. And what I used to do was chuck everything through Google Translate, and I would search for camps that way. That was one way that I would search for them, and also I would use my connections through Australia to go and find camps in Surin and Sisaket. Um, I've been very lucky because I came from a gym in Australia where we had about 3 or 4 Thai trainers, and one of them was a former Channel 7 champion. So I connected with him, and then he connected me with another person, and I trained at a gym up in Surin, and then another one in
Oh,
Sisaket.
cool.
So, you know, it's also about using your connections. Now that we're starting to see more Thai trainers go overseas, people should be using those connections. A lot of
Mhm.
guys will, that a lot of guys will, they'll just go straight to their trainer's gym back in
Mhm.
Thailand, which I think's great. Go straight to the source. There's, I think there's a big benefit in being loyal. And there's also a counter argument that you can't always be loyal to toxic trainers and all this sort of
Mhm.
stuff. But I think if you've got a good trainer, stick with them, and go learn their lineage. I think a big part of Muay Thai is staying with the lineage and the path that you started on, because you'll stick to that one style and learn it.
For the ones who do get the opportunities to go overseas are clearly like no scrub. It's not just some random Thai person. So,
Mm,
like, it makes sense to follow their recommendation. And obviously, if that gym is not a good fit, then leave. And please
mm,
don't stick to a place where you don't feel like uh, you're being treated well or taught in the way that works for you. It may even be a great place, but you're simply not developing the way you want. Gym hopping, I think, is a way to kind of stunt your development, and so is trying to pigeonhole yourself into a particular style of gym. Like if my trainer back home were to say, "Go to this gym because this was my trainer," and I said, "Well, I don't want to go there because that person's not Muay Thai," I feel like that's really shooting yourself in the foot. Um,
mm.
there are certain gyms that are really good at certain styles because they practice those styles all the time and they have a lot of fighters who are of that style, but that kind of is just going to come along on its own. And it's not like FA Group doesn't know how to box or that like Gao Samrit doesn't know how to knee. You're going to walk away with a lot of knowledge based on pretty much any gym. It's just you're going to get different kinds of styles based on who's teaching there. And who's teaching there might also vary from month to month. So I think it makes sense to trust the recommendations of the people who have already succeeded. And while their experience will have been different than the experience you're going to have now, just because of how the sport has changed, it also takes a lot of pressure off what gym to pick. There are thousands of them. How are you supposed to know which one's going to be a good fit? So,
Yeah, well, it's one of those things I often tell people, try before you buy, go travel around a little bit, find what works for you, and then, try and stick to that one place. I had Hugh O'Donnell on last week, and that was pretty much what he did. He spent 18 months, traveling around Thailand and finding different gyms, had fights for different gyms, and now he's at Powerhouse Phuket, and he loves it there. It works for his style, the style of training, and sometimes that's what you need to do. Try before you buy. Don't just step off a plane and commit to the first gym that has all the superstars, because Superbond's gym might not work for you. Kiao Rip might not work for you. Saw Deshapan might not work for you. Kem's gym might not work for you. You've got to try out all these things. I always say to people, try 2 weeks,
yeah.
try a place for 2 weeks. I think that's a good amount of time to kind of figure out whether a place is for you, because I don't think a drop-in session is really enough to judge a place
No.
or its culture by. um
Especially because it's going to take longer to get to know people if there is a language barrier.
mm,
Even when there is less of a language barrier, there's still a cultural barrier. Like I still make mistakes all the time or miscommunications all the time. And I would say that I'm fluent. So important to try to build the relationship first, because the dynamic is going to change based on who you're working with, who's there that day. There may be somebody who that you really click with as a pad holder who simply wasn't there on the day you dropped in.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been there for a while. What advice would you and you've trained Muay Thai? How long have you been training Muay Thai, if I may ask?
I guess off and on, I'm going to call it like between 4 and 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fair amount of time. Now, you've been here for a while. You can speak Thai. What advice would you give to someone coming over to Thailand to train Muay Thai for their very first time? Maybe the top 3 things.
As we touched on earlier, I really do think the very best thing that you can do is try to learn a little bit of the Thai mannerisms, cultures, and traditions while you're here, because that's the whole reason. Like, there are fighters, some of the best, highest levels, most decorated fighters in the world don't come to Thailand very often. There is amazing fight training everywhere, all over the world. I think you come to Thailand because it's special. There's something unique about training it at the source. And so I think it's a little bit of a pity, what's quite a pity, to come here and not take advantage of the enriching cultural experiences by trying to build those relationships with Thai people. The whole reason I'm doing this sport and not MMA is because that's what I fell in love with. I can punch people in a lot of different ways. This is the one I picked because I like Thailand and I like Thai people and I like speaking Thai. The second thing I would say, try not to push too hard the first week, first 2 weeks, and to be very, very patient with yourself, because we all, including me, have this desire to want to prove that we know something, that we're not just total scrubs. And what ends up happening is the climate gets to you, the time difference gets to you. You're riding really high when you get here on adrenaline, and you might push too hard, get hurt, and it's going to ruin the rest of your experience. So I know a lot of people have said that, and I will echo that. Try to be patient with yourself and get a lot of electrolytes. Talk to people about how they recover. Lean on the resources who are there, who have already been there. Most people are really, really happy to help you. You'll find at least one person who's really excited to show you what all the good snacks are at 7-Eleven and how to make yourself feel better. And if you need to go in their room and cry after class, there's a couple of those people too. It's it's a hard thing that you're doing. It's a really impressive thing that you're doing, but it's also not unique. We're not that special for going and doing this. We're very, very lucky. We had this amazing opportunity. And so it's such a waste of time to try to bully yourself into getting some kind of result while you're here. Try to enjoy the process and learn as much as you can. If I had to pick a third thing, besides being nice to Thai people and being nice to yourself, let's see. Be nice to your teammates. Show up. Be polite to everybody if you can. Not everybody's going to mesh, and that's unfortunately a sad reality. And I have a tendency to try to get along with every single person, including people who have made it clear that I'm not their cup of tea, which is fine. I can be kind of a lot. No worries. But if you're not showing up and supporting your teammates, you never know what kind of relationships you might be missing out on. Even if you're looking from a purely selfish standpoint, that person may end up being someone that becomes a really important connection later in your life. So if you can consistently show up for people and show your support and help them out, even just little tiny things like, I got an extra pack of electrolytes. Hey, I'm going to 7. Do you want anything? Showing up to their fights is huge. They're probably not even going to notice that you're there until after, but when they see you in the audience and saw you, that you were there cheering them on, it makes a huge difference in how you perform. Now, amplify that time 100 when you learn that they've actually bet money on you. And it becomes a really, really important thing to build that sense of community here. And it's a small world, and I think it's just really, really important to try to get along with as many people as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful thought. Often people think that, Muay Thai is a purely selfish sport, but it's not. It's a team sport, and it's a community sport. It requires a team of people to get one person in the ring. And, it's a team effort. So, when fighters are just thinking it's all about themselves, it's not. It's about everybody who got you there to that point. That's why we do the Y Crew Runway. That's why we give thanks to our teacher, everybody in our gym who sacrificed time away from their families, time away from their girlfriend or boyfriend or their husband and wife, their kids, so that you can step in there and prove something not only to your gym but to yourself as well. So always remember to give thanks to the people who got you to that point and just be nice. It's not that hard to be nice.
You can't do this alone. I'll see, sort of edgy videos from a lot of, especially MMA gyms. I'm not trying to bully them, but there's very much this like extremely American lone wolf. I'm going to do it myself. Like, um, nobody believes in me kind of like emo shit. And it's like, well, the video you just posted, there's someone
Well,
holding pads for you in that video. There's somebody
yeah,
sparring you in that video. That's another body. That's another full conscious, complete human being that also loves this sport.
yeah. Well,
So
I think a lot of that comes from the alpha male manosphere space as well. The red pill kind of bullshit, and that stuff has no place in Muay Thai. This isn't
fighting
all
is
in.
scary, and so is human connection. So is challenging your ego. And it's just amazing the overlap of people who want to do something that they consider so brave, but they can't even have a simple conversation with someone that they're having a conflict with. So you need to have a big tool set of human skills, no matter what discipline you're in. And you might become a very, very good fighter, but I feel like the biggest enrichment you get out of this is the connections you make to other people. This is just a really, really weird way to do it.
Yep, absolutely. And I think also people need to remember Muay Thai is not about being a tough guy as well. It's not about, being a bully and being this sort of um alpha bravado action hero esque person. It's about, just fighting for fun. It's not about
Absolutely.
killing. It's
It's
not
just
about
fun.
killing anyone. It's just fighting for
I've
fun.
been I've been put through a lot less by the women who have hit me in the face than by the people who once said they loved me.
Mm. Now,
That was a little dark, sorry.
yeah, that's no, that caught me off guard, but that's okay. That's okay. That's all right. That's fine. That's fine. Um, any shout outs you want to give to people out there? Anybody who's helped you, talking about, the community aspect of Muay Thai and Muay Thai and how important it is to foster that sense of community. Any shout outs to anyone?
So many. I mention her a lot. I'm such a fangirl, but Sarah Goye up in Chiang Mai.
Hmm.
Like, I get a little shy when I even say that she's my friend because it feels like she's just such a freaking goddess in this
Hmm.
sport. She is now like starting to commentate for one.
Yep.
She's had so many cool experiences all across the world Muay Thai stage, and she does so much activism and writing. She has a Substack now that she started pretty recently that's fantastic. So check her out. Obviously, PKM, he probably won't be watching this, but I have to mention him somehow. Um, and pretty much everybody who has cycled in and out of this camp have been just such pleasant, lovely friends and training partners. And I'm just so grateful to all of them and also to you and also some of the people I met up in Chiang Mai. I've mentioned him a couple times, but Pinky down in Australia, he's been
Yep.
super coul. Yeah, it's funny when I met him, I'm like, this person is abrasive, and I feel like I don't understand why I like him so much. He's really, really authentic. He's such a cool dude, and he has a lot of knowledge. And I think he shares a lot of the experiences and emotional and spiritual connections to the sport that I do. So I've learned a lot from him, and I've been really, really grateful to him.
Yeah, Uncle Pinky is the international cornerman, Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide, I call him the Pitbull of Muay Thai. You'll see him everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, One of the best dudes in the sport and a returning guest and friend of the podcast as well. So a shout out to all those people. Shout out to Sarah Goya, who's doing amazing things as well. I actually ran into her at Lumpini Stadium yesterday.
Bad.
Unfortunately, I had to rush out because I only have a little bit of time between both shows. But thank you, Meg McNelis, for your time and for your thoughts on the world of Muay Thai. Fantastic conversation about how Muay Thai has helped you, what people can expect about training in Korat in the Northeast, the type of fights that you'll get, the importance of building community, and some tips for people coming over. So thank you very much. This has been episode 44. Everyone, please like, share, subscribe. You can check it out on YouTube, Spotify. This is Chok Muay Chats, the conversation about everything Muay Thai. And also, go check out Meg McNelis on Instagram. Where can they find you?
So it's caribou_Megs, but the A in caribou is a 4. I'm sorry. There's no easier way to explain that.
I will put the link in the description as usual. Please like, share, subscribe. I am Joe Comerford.